I was born in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia in 1930, of Indian parents, both educated and open-minded. My father was a research botanist at the Rubber Research Institute there. My sister was born 2 years later, name was Kamala. In 1940, when I was 10, World War II happened and the Japanese occupied Malaya. My mother, sister and I spent the next 5 years completely cut off from my father and living in my maternal grandmother's home in Kerala, in South India. It was a joint family in the matrilineal tradition. Uncles, aunts, cousins living in the same house. It worked out well for me as my two uncles were effective mentors in the absence of my father. Our family was reunited after the war. I went to the university in Benares in North India, and my parents and sister went back to Kuala Lumpur. In Benares, I got my bachelor's in physics. It was there that I met my American friend, Eddie Hirabayashi, who suggested I go to the University of Washington in Seattle. When I came to the United States in 1954, all I had in mind was getting a graduate degree in meteorology, a new field at the time, and heading back to India. Staying on was never a consideration for me. I liked my courses, I did well, I enjoyed my professors and the friends I made. For me, there were no surprises. The movies, books, and my American friends in India had prepared me well for adjusting to life here. 2 years into my stay, I met Lorraine, and within a year, we decided to get married. I had to reconsider my plans to go back to India. It looked like my future was going to be in this country. Adjusting to this change was not hard because I would have a family here. The hard part was it meant separation from my parents, my sister, and my relatives in India, and not knowing when and how often we would be able to see them. Life as a married graduate student with our daughter Padma was simply great. I had a supportive wife, supportive professors. Even my PhD thesis project was going well. I had succeeded in developing an instrument for measuring wind turbulence using sound waves. The sonic anemometer, as it was called, was what many researchers were waiting for. No one could make one work. I did. And that success gave me the professional head start I needed. In 1961, right after I finished my PhD, we spent 3 months in India with family. Sadly, my father had passed away a year before. In 1963, I became an American citizen. This was a big step, considering that you're changing your identity, and it normally would have been very difficult, but it was Kennedy's America, and I could happily pledge allegiance to it. My first job was with the Air Force Cambridge Research Laboratories. It did basic research on the atmosphere and was looking for someone with my talents. Over the next 14 years, my group did a series of field experiments with newer versions of my instrument, and from those we figured out how the atmosphere works in the first 1,000 feet. In 1975, our group moved to Boulder, Colorado to work for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. More experiments, more papers followed, and I finally published a book with Oxford University Press that brought together 30 years of work in my field. With that, I retired in 1992, and we moved to Hamilton to join our daughter Padma and family. My easiest adjustment of all to living in America was my growing family. My wife and 3 children, Padma, Narayan, and Maya, they have all been to India several times, at first with us, and now with their own families. They are fond of their relatives, the food, and the country. Looking back, I feel that life opened up for me after I stepped out the ship in San Francisco 56 years ago. This country and its people have been generous beyond words. I consider myself very lucky. Stepping from one culture to another seemed almost seamless to me.